This is a Caribou Weather Dude special on Hurricane Milton. It's heading into Tampa Bay, and it's going to affect at least one hockey game, so that's of concern maybe to Canadians. I don't know. It's going to be a lot worse than that. We're going to be talking about that here in this short video so that we don't have to talk about it during BC forecast, which I'll be doing next sometime tonight or tomorrow morning. All right. Hurricane Milton special. Let's go. There it is. This is bad news. My God.
Falling out right now.
Anything could happen. Get on. Wow.
I'll watch the video later.
They dry mopping this. I know usually we're talking about BC weather in this channel, but I think the story of the week in North America most absolutely is this. And it's not just this hurricane's rapid intensification. I kind of hinted at yesterday that they said it was going to hit Florida as a Category 3, and I thought, well, you know, I didn't see any reason after Helene just massively rapid intensified and became a Cat 4 before it hit coast. I couldn't see any reason personally why that wouldn't happen again, but I don't know all the data, so I didn't necessarily say, you know, that kind of thing one way or another yesterday. But, you know, this is the case. Hurricane Milton continuing to rapidly intensify. A hurricane watch is now issued for the northern coast of Yucatan Peninsula. Here's the changes with this new advisory. The government of Mexico has issued a hurricane watch for north coast of Yucatan Peninsula from Celestin to Cabo Catache and tropical storm warning for east of Cabo Catache to Cancun. Means hurricane conditions are possible within the watch area. Watch is typically issued 48 hours before the anticipated first occurrence of tropical storm force winds, conditions that make outside preparation difficult or dangerous. Storm surge and hurricane watches will likely be issued for portions of Florida tonight or early Monday, so even sooner. The center of Hurricane Milton was located near latitude 22.4 north, longitude 93.8 west. Milton is moving toward the east near 7 miles per hour, just 11 kilometers an hour. This general motion is expected today. An eastward to northeastward motion is forecast on Monday, followed by a faster northeastward motion on Tuesday and Wednesday. On the forecast track, Milton is forecast to move just north of the Yucatan Peninsula and across the southern Gulf of Mexico Monday and Tuesday and approach the west coast of Florida Peninsula by Wednesday. Maximum sustained winds have increased near 85 miles per hour with higher gusts. That's 140 kilometers an hour, folks. Milton is forecast to rapidly intensify during the next couple of days and become a major hurricane on Monday. Hurricane force winds extend outward 25 miles, 35 kilometers from the center, and tropical storm force winds now extend 80 miles, 130 kilometers. The estimated minimum central pressure is 983. And yesterday we were just taking some looks at what would be forecast as the minimum pressure, and it appears that today that's a lot lower than it was yesterday. So we kind of expect to see that sort of thing, you know, like I expect models to always change and update, and sometimes they're not immediately quick enough to say one way or another on things, but there's a reason for that, and that's because we want to get it right until we have enough data. You know, so storm surge will raise water by as much as 2 to 4 feet above ground level on the northern coast of Yucatan Peninsula. And this is going to be the big thing for Florida. I mean, people there are not going to have seen anything like this before in Tampa Bay. I don't care how long you've lived there. You probably won't have seen anything like Hurricane Milton ever hit you in Tampa Bay before. This is not like the last storm that just glanced on by. Even that storm did crazy things in Florida. It swept sand inland like it looked like snow had filled the streets, you know, like they were shoveling out sand. It was wild. We'll have a look at the forecast discussion and what it's saying here from National Hurricane Service. Milton is rapidly intensifying. Satellite images indicate very deep convection in the eye wall and hints of an eye starting to appear now. The last fix from aircraft showed that the central pressure was down to 985, 3 millibar less than 80 minutes prior. So she's sinking fast, folks. Winds supporting 70 knots at the surface. Since that time, that's over 100 kilometers an hour. Satellite images continue to show further organization. The initial wind speed is set to 75 knots. It's moving just south of due east at about 6 knots. This equatorward motion has been more than expected, probably due to a stronger low mid-level front over the northeastern Gulf of Mexico. The frontal feature is forecast to weaken while it moves across Florida and gradually lose its influence on Milton. This evolution should allow the hurricane to turn eastward on Monday and then accelerate to the northeast on Tuesday and Wednesday towards Florida, toward the Florida Peninsula ahead of a trough moving offshore of Texas. The National Hurricane Center forecast is a bit south of the previous one through 48 hours, following the trend of the guidance at that time, and the government of Mexico has issued a hurricane watch for a portion of North Coast Yucatan. Later on, guidance is similar to or slightly north of the last cycle, and very little change is made to the forecast near Florida. It should be noticed that the average National Hurricane Center track error at day 3 is around 100 miles, and users should not focus on the exact track. So this could change a little bit still. It means there's not 100% sureness on exactly where it's going to land on the coast. The intensity forecast appears straightforward at first, with rapid intensification likely, while the small hurricane remains within light shear and over very deep, warm waters. Intensity guidance is about as bullish as I've ever seen in this part of the basin, with almost everything showing a weak intensity of Category 4 or 5 in the southern Gulf of Mexico in a day or two. The National Hurricane Center forecast is raised from the previous one and lies near the intensity consensus model and still could be too low. Category 4 might be too low. So this is a developing story, folks. We were talking about a Category 3 hitting yesterday. It could be much stronger than that, and I was afraid that would be the case. Later on, vertical wind shear is forecast to markedly increase as Milton approaches Florida, and some weakening is anticipated. However, the regional hurricane models are showing the system growing even if it weakens. It will get wider even if it's not quite as powerful at landfall. We are expecting Milton to be a large hurricane at landfall with very dangerous impacts spread over a very large area. This is increasing confidence that a powerful hurricane with life-threatening hazards will be affecting portions of the Florida West Coast around the middle of this week. Residents there should closely monitor this system. Milton is forecast to be a major hurricane when it reaches the West Coast of Florida midweek. Users are reminded not to focus on the details of the forecast as there remains significant uncertainty in the eventual track and intensity of Milton. While it's too soon to specify the exact magnitude and location of the greatest impacts, there is increasing risk of life-threatening storm surge and damaging winds for a portion of the west coast of the Florida Peninsula. Beginning early Wednesday, and storm surge and hurricane watches will be issued likely tonight or Monday. Residents in the Florida Peninsula should follow any advice given by local officials and monitor updates to the forecast. Area of heavy rainfall will impact north portions in Florida. Looks like 170 mils maybe in some places I was just looking at. Through Monday, well ahead of Milton. That's all together this week for Florida, 170 mils maybe, with heavy rainfall more directly related to Milton expected Tuesday through Wednesday night. This rainfall will bring the risk of considerable flash urban and rural flooding, along with the potential for moderate to major river flooding. Tropical storm conditions are expected with hurricane conditions beginning Monday across portions of the northern Yucatan Peninsula of Mexico, where tropical storm warning and hurricane watch are in effect. Preseason game between the Predators and Lightning have now been canceled due to impending weather. This is the second time, actually. This game was postponed before because of Hurricane Helene. A final preseason game between Tampa Bay and Nashville, set for Monday, has been canceled. The game between the two teams, originally scheduled for 27th of September, was postponed due to Hurricane Helene being in Florida. Milton's an impending tropical storm in the Gulf of Alaska, it says here. Well, that's not the case. It's going to be at least a Category 3 storm, it says here. It's now officially classified as a hurricane, despite what this article reads. Way ahead of schedule, Milton's now officially a hurricane. So, yeah, okay, the article catches up. Evacuation order is being planned right now for Florida. Florida Division of Emergency Management Director Kevin Guthrie called it the largest evacuation since 2017 at a press conference with Ron DeSantis, the governor. He declared a state of emergency for 51 of Florida's 67 counties. This is bad, folks. The Lightning are set to open the season at Carolina on October 11th. Hopefully that goes off without a hitch. And the Predators start their season campaign hosting the Stars on October 10th. I mean, I won't lie. I'm like as far in the opposite from a Tampa Bay sports fan as you can be, but something really big is going on when they're canceling games well ahead of time. And luckily for everybody, there's no hockey game going to be going on Wednesday. There is no the season opener for Tampa is not in Tampa, so it shouldn't affect the start of their season. But who knows how many more repercussions down the road this might have, depending on the damage, what happens in Tampa. I mean, this is going to be, like I said, a storm unlike anyone who lives in Tampa has seen before. Okay, and we've seen a lot of big hurricanes through the years, but not one this big hitting this part of Florida dead on. No, very dangerous situation, very scary, and there's already been so much life loss from what just happened last week with Helene. the catastrophe through the Carolinas and through the Appalachian areas, the regions, the towns washed away, at least 200 people and more dead, hundreds still missing. It's a complete catastrophe. And, it looks like the forecast track for this storm, this time we'll take it right across Florida. So today at 2 o'clock, we're looking at Category 3 by tomorrow. Should stay that way, but this model's already, I don't think this model shows, so I don't know how frequent they update the hurricane modeling on Windy, so it could be behind, and that's what appears to be the case. But still, this should tell you something. This is the weaker model still, and the weaker model still has it hitting at Category 3, still 194 kilometer an hour winds when hitting the coast. That's really, really bad. We still see 172 millimeters of rain hitting up into many parts of Florida. Most of the entire state of Florida, except for this very, very high part of the panhandle there, is going to be getting extreme amounts of rain, if not considerable amounts of rain. 225 millimeters along the coast there. Yeah, I could see that. So this is flooding, but this is what's telling even about this being behind is it was going to cross over as a hurricane still. So it'll have that chance to maybe re-intensify. I have no information as to whether that's the case necessarily, because as it moves through this week, here it goes. Lots of rain and storms up ahead of it. And then you see it's going to hit into Florida sometime on Wednesday, maybe midday, make landfall. And as it passes through, does it have the ability to reinvigorate itself as a hurricane? I'm not sure about that. It may help feed a new low that goes up into Ontario. So this is ECMW model, ECMWF, and it's considerably different than what we see on this GFS model, which we have on Pivotal here. Here's GFS model. Now we're going to see it going much deeper than the 960s for a while, in the 950s. So much stronger than it looked like yesterday when we just sort of briefly looked at it. And on the GFS model, it carries through. It does kind of glance the Carolinas, sort of, but not really strike it. And then it sort of moves up and helps join this guy that's already up here spinning off the coast of Greenland and make a very, very powerful Atlantic storm, mid-latitude cyclone that will be re-energized for. So even if it doesn't, have a hurricane ending once it passes over Florida for very long, that's up in the air, but it's still going to have effects that right now we have models that are really all over the map on what that looks like. In this version, it has it going more or less sort of east, north, east, out. So there's another storm still going on too that's really, really interesting right now, and it's only a Category 1 now, Hurricane Kirk, but it was very, very powerful not that long ago, and here it is, and it's forecast to make a direct slam right up into Europe. So I don't think it'll be hurricane when it gets to Europe, but this is a very interesting story going on, this big storm. And it is making a little bit of nasty weather through Atlantic Canada, or at least is sort of hinged off of it. And then we have Hurricane Leslie down here. Well, it's not a hurricane yet. Oh, yeah, it is now. It's Category 1 hurricane. So we now have 3 hurricanes going on. I did know that. Plus this other tropical depression. I mean, we've seen a very active jump, a very active increase suddenly in the amount of tropical storms going on in the Atlantic right now. So very interesting season so far. So that's more or less what I got to tell you about what's going on with Hurricane Milton, everybody. Hit like, share, subscribe, and we'll be back with some BC forecasting, Western Canada weather soon enough, right? I just felt like I didn't want to talk about this. There's too much to talk. I can't not talk about this as a weather guy, or at least mention it. And if I'm trying to make forecasts for Canada, I'm going to want to mention this is going on down there. Well, at least now there's somewhere else you can go and look at and have a look. So anyways, thanks everybody. Thanks for your likes, your shares, your comments, and keep real, keep kind to yourself. Have yourself a great end of your weekend. Bye now.